Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my authors' chats of the week. And the last live I'm doing this week because I head out to Dragon Con in a couple days, and so right now I am in kind of the midst of packing and organizing everything and trying to get all my ducks in the row. And the ducks keep trying to spread out there, if you know what I'm saying. But it's going to be a fun weekend full of different events. I'm super excited about the panels that I'm either going to be participating on or moderating, and of course selling and signing some of my copies while I'm there on Friday. So very excited about this weekend, and can't wait to get there and get things going. But today we'll be doing, like I said, another one of my authors' chats, and I'll keep my eye out for my co-host, and I'll send an invite when I see him out there. There we are. Okay, sending the invite, and we'll see if he sees that and get things going. We'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. So if you like any of those things, stick around a little bit, and we'll be talking about all things books. For me, I'm the fantasy author. I write a variety of high fantasy. You can see some of the examples of some of my books behind me. Those are my author's copies that I signed and send out through my shop. Now, like I said, I'm going to keep an eye out to see if he noticed the... There we go. Perfect, the invite, and we'll get things going. Hello, hello?
Hello?
I hear you, I do not see you, and for whatever reason, it always starts off this way, so you kind of have to figure out how to... Ah, there you go, invert it. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I see your book poster behind you. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. I've been taking it to book fairs,
I
and
love that.
it's been doing really well. Yeah.
I love that. I'm actually going to a convention this weekend, so I'm in the midst of packing all that kind of stuff, and I always love seeing what other people bring to different events. But before
Yeah.
I jump too far in advance, this is pretty conversational. If anybody in the chat feeds pops in a bookish question or comment, I usually try to read those aloud and answer them. And I think depending on how people join the live, either through you or me, I may or may not see all the comments. So feel free to, note
Okay.
anything
Yeah.
on your end. But outside of that, I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write, since you're my co-host tonight, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am author R D Moreno, and my first book out, Zeta 5, Path of the One. It's been out just a little bit over a year now. I've received 2 awards for it already. So I'm ecstatic at the progress that I'm making with it, and I never expected to get this kind of momentum for a first book, but I'm happy that I'm there.
Yeah, I was going to say, not everybody is able to do that with their first book, so that is an achievement that is good to acknowledge, and that's fantastic that you have a couple of words to your name already. Congratulations on those.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was. As an indie author, I mean, you've got to apply for all this stuff yourself. People aren't putting you in for it. So it's like, I'll shoot for the stars and see what happens. And right at Christmas time, I got both notices. The week of between Christmas and New Year's, I got one, and then a few days later, I got the second notice. So I was elated. I mean, it was a perfect Christmas present for me.
I bet. So tell me a little bit about your story, like who's your main characters and what's
Yeah.
the big themes of your first book?
Yeah, so Connor Balcazar is one of the main characters in there that you follow him through his journey. He's a young warrior that's just starting out in the world. He's got an older brother, Adam, that's been doing this for a while. In this empire, they support the emperor, who actually brings on new planets that are matured enough, and they think that they can be brought into the empire and help sustain the overall environment. And so they've both been training as warriors since the time they were young kids. And like I said, Adam's been doing this for a while. And in the beginning of the book, the first chapter of the book, it discusses that this is Connor's first opportunity to jump in there. And his brother Adam gets caught behind enemy lines on a planet that they're trying to bring on that's in the middle of a war. So Connor gets his opportunity to try and expose some of his tools and some of the things that he's learned as a young warrior. And you see some of the growth that goes on throughout the book from him from his beginning to where he ends up at the end of the book. A couple of things for Connor. So one of the things is that he has the ability to see the future, but because he's still young, trying to figure it out, he gets these visions that he's still trying to put together as to what's really happening here and how does this relate to other things that are going on. So he has to try and understand what he's going to do with these visions that he sees.
I love that. And which I'm assuming it would be him as the character on your cover, but you do have two figures on your front cover, so I didn't know if they were actually reflective of your main character or the brother or another one.
Well, yeah. So if you look on the cover, there's actually a male and female cover, a person warrior on here. So the emperor has two daughters, Emily and Christina. And so there's a romantic element between Connor and Adam and Christina and Emily that comes out in the book as well. But without exposing too much, you find out, well, actually in chapter 2, they talk a little bit about how Christina would practice with Connor and Adam when they were kids, and Emily would play lookout. So that way Christina could practice and get some of these skills down. And they talk a little bit about it. Adam and Christina get caught up in, they're in another planet and there's a civil war going on, and they get caught up in it and some of the things that they end up doing to get out of it. So you get a glimpse of the fact that Christina herself has warrior capabilities that you find out later in the book as it continues on.
I do love a good warrior woman archetype, so that's always exciting. Personally,
Yep.
again, that's what I write,
Yep.
so I do love that.
Yep.
Now, with your book, is this supposed to be a standalone or a start of a series? Have you figured that out? Because
So interesting you say that. I always wanted to write, and I had read Dune when I was just starting high school, and it really affected me, and I thought I would really love to write something like that. So actually for Zeta 5, the way I present it is Dune meets Game of Thrones meets Stargate.
wow.
Yeah. But life gets in the way. High school, I discover cars, and then you discover girls, and then you get a job, and then you create a family, and it just goes from there. And so I didn't really have the opportunity to write until after I retired. We bought our forever home here in Gibson, North Carolina, and we remodeled it. And then after I was done remodeling it, it's like, okay, now what's next? And I had been laid off during COVID retirement, which they did me a huge favor. But so Dune had been released, but it hadn't gone anywhere because of COVID. So when they re-released it, I watched Dune a couple of times, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to start writing. So everything started percolating. I put a list of characters together, who the characters were and how they played in the book, because I have these things going on in my head about how I wanted the book to lay out, how I wanted things to happen. And then when I put the list of characters together, it all kind of fell into place.
That's great.
Yeah. So Zeta 5 is actually a large mining planet. It's surrounded by asteroids, and it has 3 moons that orbit it. But the problem with Zeta 5 is there's no actual way onto the planet because it's surrounded by these asteroids. But once every 3 months, the moons align, and it creates an opening through the asteroids that you can fly in through. Yeah, and then you have a day and a half to do what you're going to do on Zeta 5, or you're going to be stuck there for 3 months. So that's kind of the premise of what Zeta 5 is. And like I said, it's a large mining planet. They mine Xando crystals, which are refined for interstellar flight. So like Dune, they have spice. With Zeta 5, they have Xando crystals. So that's kind of how the parallel goes.
I definitely like that, and I do like that time restraint and that stress and strain that can be there of like you said, getting in and
Yep.
getting out, doing what you need to do in your limited time, or else what happens if you get stuck on the planet for 3 months? I don't know if
Yep.
you have monstrous creatures like sandworms in yours, but like what's going to happen if you're
Well,
stuck there? And
well, okay. So I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. There is a dragon involved in this book.
dragons.
I couldn't do sandworms. I couldn't do anything like that. I love dragons, and within the fantasy realm, you're kind of not doing fantasy any justice if you don't have some kind of dragon or something like that in the book. So I was able to come up with a unique way of using a dragon within this storyline.
So what kind of subgenres would you categorize it? Because when you start off saying things like Dune, I'm thinking, on the sci-fi
Yeah,
side, but then dragons fantasy. I know there's science fantasy. That's kind of a little bit of both.
yeah.
So where does yours fall in your mind?
So it leans more to sci-fi, with a fantasy element because there's discussions about space travel. There's visit to other planets. Um, there's stuff going on there. There's technology involved, and like I said, with the Stargate element involved in there, it kind of brings it into. But so kind of the main thing that hits it off is Esteban is the emperor, and he has a younger brother Lorenzo, and Lorenzo is a brilliant scientist and owns all the labs and is responsible for all of that, and he is the one that helped develop interstellar flight. But the problem is there's a rift between Lorenzo and Esteban, and there's a plot that is uncovered in chapter three, after I bring on the characters in the first two chapters, and so you get some idea who they are. And chapter three is really when the plot takes off. And there's a lab explosion that exposes some of the stuff that Lorenzo's doing that Esteban discovers. And so he uses Connor and Adam to help discover what Lorenzo is really up to before it's too late.
I love that, the intrigue.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so neat. And yeah, no, I definitely love books that, even if they maybe list to the sci-fi or the fantasy side, but have a little bit of that crossover element. And my young adult fantasy series is definitely on the high fantasy side, but I use terminology, things like portals and wormholes, and definitely have a
Yeah,
Stargate kind of gateway that links things. And so there's those elements in there, and I do use cybernetic creatures as well. So there are those kind of elements, but it's
right.
on my side, it's a high fantasy. It definitely falls well into the fantasy side. So it's kind of fun just to play around with things and see what you can create.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, you can do different things with different planets and stuff that's going on within that environment to kind of show off some of the stuff that you're trying to write and talk about.
hmm So
So,
outside of Dune, have you really read a lot? Or because I've actually talked to some authors recently that I found interesting that they're writing in a genre that they're just starting to read, but they've watched media and that's how they absorbed it for so long. And so, have you read a lot of sci-fi fantasy? And if so, what are some of your favorite books outside of Dune?
so yeah, so most of the reading I did was when I was a lot younger. Like I said, life got in the way and it just didn't allow for much reading. But I used to read Jules Verne. I loved Edgar Allan Poe. I used to absorb all the Greek mythology stuff. I did all that as a kid, and some of the other stuff, H.G. Wells. Um, so a lot of that. And actually, for me, the one thing that kicked it off for me in sci-fi is, I mean, you bring up movies and stuff, is an old one of the original sci-fi movies, Forbidden Planet.
Oh
So
yeah.
when I saw Forbidden Planet when I was a kid, that was it. I was hooked on sci-fi, and I had to gobble up anything that was related to sci-fi. And when I was a lot younger, they used to have on the weekends, they would have a lot of the sci-fi movies and stuff on, and I'd be glued in front of the TV watching all of that stuff.
Well, all of it is different type of storytelling, be it,
Yep,
audio,
yep,
audio visual, the
yep,
print, everything is a story. And I'm that same way, where if it's something that falls in my interests, since I have multiple, I just have to go, like you said, gobble it all up. It's absolutely
yep,
great.
exactly.
And it's very,
Yeah.
sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to say, and then for fantasy, it was Jason and the Argonauts. When that came on, then it's like, okay, I got to watch all the fantasy stuff. I got to dig into that more. So that was the other part of it too.
Yep, I remember growing up on, I grew up on the Clash of the Titans, which is that same kind of
Yep,
book that
yep, the
makes
same kind of
movies,
vibe. Yep.
and that was my end all be all for Greek fantasy for a while, because I was just like, this is so great. Of course, since then I've actually read the original text and scripts and all that kind of stuff, and so it's definitely a little different than what was portrayed in the movie, but still a fun
Yeah,
movie.
it always is. Yep. Yeah, it always is. The book or the movie never really truly represents the book. So that's kind of, yeah.
It's hard. If your book could become a movie, is that something you would be interested in? Because again, it's one of those questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the other part of it is I mean I thought about it and it's like, yeah, they're gonna make it a movie and then it's the question is how much are they gonna slice and dice
Oh
what I
yeah.
originally put into it? And it's
Unless they
like,
make it
well,
free.
yeah, the, as long as it's out there and people are watching it and they're enjoying it, if they slice and dice it, that'll still encourage them to come and read the books and get a full vision of what I portrayed. So for me, it's like, yeah, okay, you can make it into a movie. Yes, I'm gonna have to accept the fact that you're gonna butcher it up here, but
We hope it's not
hopefully it's
that.
not too bad. Yeah,
Well, some of them are closer than others, so we always hope it's
yeah,
not that bad, or
right.
that the author has rights to kind of go behind the scenes and at least have some control over the recreated plot. But so for your book, what and your dreams of the future, are you currently working on the next thing, or are you still in
So
the flow of
yeah.
first book and pushing that one out? So.
Yeah, so like I said, when I first started writing, so the thought was that I'll write this book and I'll get it out of my system.
Mhm.
So, and you can see it's not a thin book
Okay.
by any means. It's 630 pages. It took me 6 months.
Wow.
So, but probably when I was trying to go the traditional published route and putting it out there and trying to um, get anybody to bite on it. About 3 months after I was done, it's like, no, I have more to tell.
Yeah.
So currently, I'm actually on probably about a quarter of the way through book five.
Oh wow. Five, you said?
Yeah, five. Yeah, two, three, and four are done, and I'm actually going to start looking to publish the second book probably the beginning of next year.
That's great. And I it's hard for people to do, and depending on everybody's schedule in life and what you're doing
Hmm.
outside of writing, that can determine how
Right.
much time you have to dedicate to what you want to do. But if and when you're able to have a couple books already kind of prepped, and then you can start staggering at the launch, I personally have found out once I got to that point to be able to kind of cycle books that way, it's been a stress relief to an extent, because I at least know, even if something hangs me up and I have a gap, unexpected gap of time in my writing, I already have the next book waiting. So then I can
Yep.
just, yeah. So it's one of those things that not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody's capable of doing that just because of life sometimes, but it's personally been a great thing to finally get to that point. So that's great for you.
Well, yeah, that's exactly true. So the next three books, I wrote each one of those probably in about 6 months,
Mhm.
Book five, like I said, I'm probably a quarter of the way, and I've been working on it for about 6 months because, like you said, life gets in the way. There's just been a lot going on, and I've been doing ARC reads for other indie authors and trying to do that. So trying to read and write at the same time is not always, especially when you've got a busy day as well, and so you're trying to read and write at night. So that's kind of where it's kind of gone.
I understand. And that's one of those sad truths when it's, I love to read. That's why I write books. You know, I want people to
Yeah.
enjoy the books that I write. But when it gets to the point of, this is my day job in part, and, you know, trying to find time between my other hobbies and, you know, having a family and doing
Yes.
other things, and then trying to find time to read, my reading time has gotten very small. So it takes me a while, and it's one of those reasons why I don't volunteer my services as an ARC reader for people, even though I would like to in, you know, the idea, but in reality,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it in time. I just read too slow, only have a few little bits of time here and there, and it's just, I have to be very honest and say, I don't have
Yeah. Well,
time to really
yeah, and
go.
eh, yeah, and I've been exactly the same way. It's like, uh, yes, I will be an ARC reader for you, but you got to be patient. It's not going to happen right away.
Mhm.
So, and I've had other people approach me and said, okay, I've got this many books ahead of you, and I'm a slow reader, so my estimation is going to be 6 months from now. Or so, if that's acceptable to you, then yes, okay, I'll agree. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how I've worked it out. Yep.
but it's a great thing to be an ARC reader just because, one, you are, you know, you leave your honors view. If anybody's listening who doesn't know what ARC reading is, ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy. So by definition, the idea is an author sends out their book in advance of publication to people who are volunteering their services to read, and then after is published, they leave an honest review. That's the deal. So it's one of those things that's, reviews really do matter for authors. So being an ARC reader is something that we all appreciate people who do that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so, you know, for you volunteering your time, because time is valuable for every person, you know, I appreciate that
It
you're
is.
trying to do that. 'Cause I can't figure that one out right now in my personal schedule.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. Yep.
So what are you doing? So you said that you're ARC reading, you have your first book. How are you, or what are you doing to try to promote and market your book at this time?
Yeah, so I've actually been doing, I've done probably, I was trying to count it today. I've done 8 different podcasts in the past 6 months, I think.
That's impressive.
Um, and I'm slated to do a couple more before the end of the year. I've also, like I said before, I started doing book fairs.
Mhm.
I South Carolina, I've done one. I've done two here in North Carolina. I'm doing another one in September, and then another one in November um, to try and with each book fair that I've done, I've sold more books. So actually, the last one, Amazon and their infinite wisdom delayed my last shipment, so I only had 12 books for the last book fair. And the book fair started at noon, and I was sold out by 12, or I mean by 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I actually had, and you mentioned reviews, so I actually had 2 people come up to me and tell me that, so they had seen my poster, they saw my table, and they looked up my book on Goodreads, and then they approached my table and said, "We saw your reviews and we want to buy your book."
Yeah,
So,
it
so
happens.
yeah, so
Reviews,
that's
you know.
yeah. So, and then the other thing too is, I don't know if you can see it very well. So I had these cards created.
Mhm.
Um, so it has a picture of the book and my name at the bottom, and I offer those as signature cards. So I had a few people that came up, and I told them I'm very sorry, I'm out of books. If you'd like to go to Amazon and pick up a book, I have these cards here. I'm happy to address it to you and sign it, and you can put it in with your book, and you can actually have a signature card that you can add to your book. So I won't be actually be able to sign your book, but the next best thing. So I actually sold 3 more books that weekend because of it.
That's great. And yeah, I figured out those, what some people call the book plates, where you have those stickers that you can
Yep.
sign to put in. And so that's what I designed some and printed them off. And so I have them readily available at my house in case anybody, for instance, bought my book and has never seen me at an
Yeah.
event, can't get to me, and they're like, hey, I would love to have it signed. How can I do this? And I'll send them, a signed book plate. So that's always nice to be able to offer that. Now, obviously, you're saying you're selling at book fairs. I haven't actually done a book fair. I've done different kind of conventions and other things, solo signings. But do you sell your books directly? Like, do you have like a TikTok shop or a website, or is it just through these face-to-face interactions?
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out the other day with Linktree on my TikTok account how to offer books for sale, because I've given out books, and I've figured out how to do the wrapping and the rest of it, and I've got bookmarks and stickers, and I've got pens that look like swords. So I've been sending those out. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to actually sell them. So if people want to buy my book, I'll send them a wrapped book, and it's a signed wrapped book for them to have. So I'm trying to work that out.
Yeah, I will say I'm not the one to give advice about the book talk shop. For whatever reason, I've never been really successful with my book talk shop, because I have that as a separate thing than this particular author one. There's some business things to be able to do behind the scenes, and that's why. But I do sell through my website, so when I do a lot of these lives, people will go and actually go to my website and buy the book, and then I sign them, and send them out that way. So both ways work. You could do both. You do one or the other. So hopefully you can figure that out. So I'm not very techy.
Yep.
Once I figured it out.
Yeah, I was on a live the other night, and so there was a couple of people on there that said that they'll reach out to me and help me try to figure that out. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely some better ways to approach it. And because, like, I know when I first tried to figure out how to structure a book talk shop, I wasn't doing it the best way, and had to ask all these questions and change things after the fact, and it was a little bit of a mess. So ask the questions first, get help up front.
Yep.
Help alleviate some of these stumbling blocks, because I'm definitely one of those authors that does everything wrong the first time, but then I correct it going forward.
Well, that's a comment that I've made. Is over the past year, I've learned a lot. I mean, I thought when I wrote my book and put it out there, that was all I had to do. It's no, marketing is a whole different animal that you have to jump into and figure out how to maneuver around in it. And
the downside of indie publishing, we have to market our own stuff, or afford to pay someone to market it for us. So
exactly.
That is one of those quote-unquote flaws versus people going trad. So to each their own. I love indie. I love the challenge, but I also bang my head on the proverbial, wall or floor periodically, because
absolutely. Yep. Yeah. There's times it's like, is this really worth it? Well, and that's the other thing too, is for me, I've always been an introvert. So trying to put myself out there as an extrovert, it's a whole nother animal. And if you look at my page, I don't have a lot of posts with me in it. I have a lot of different videos and stuff like that, but I'm starting to learn. I have other authors that are trying to kind of coax me into it. They've kind of challenged me with a few things, so I'm starting to dig into it a little more. But it's hard to just put yourself on the videos and do it. But
even on this platform, something that I know works, and it is also something that works on other platforms as well, is when you do the still shots, but slideshows, I think is what it's called on this platform.
Yep.
Do a series of them and put different tags, but you just take a couple photos of yourself, doing weird, whatever poses, and then do
Yep.
some
Yep.
close-ups of your book and create a slideshow, and that usually works. And then you don't have to feel like you have to talk to a camera, which even for me, I identify as an extreme extrovert, that was very weird for me in the beginning. And I look at some of my
Yep.
earliest posts, and I was like, "Ooh, that was so bad. That was so awkward. That was terrible." But it's definitely something you just have to get used to, and if you're able to overcome, it gives you more options. And if not, there are definitely authors that do perfectly fine without showing their face. The trick is figuring out what that special formula is.
Yep. Yeah. What? Yeah. What the niche is. Yeah. So the other thing too is I've started playing with Canva. To your point, so you're trying to create those videos using Canva. So that's helped a little bit. I've done some book reviews doing that. So
That's nice. Yeah, Canva is one of those amazing tools. I don't know why I didn't know about it for so long, but then a couple years ago, I discovered it. Like, I felt like the last one to figure this out. And since then, across my office, I have it pulled up because I was prepping a promo post that I was doing right before I jumped on this live, and I use it all the time.
yep. Yep. Yeah. I'm starting to use it more and more, and that's where I make all my bookmarks. Pretty much any of the marketing stuff, that's all done through Canva now.
I love that. So what is, and this is a question that I am terrible at answering, so I'm sorry that I'm going to ask
Sure.
it of you.
No worries.
What is your quick pitch, or the hook line, as people call it, that 1 to 2 sentence about your book to catch someone's attention?
Oh yeah.
It's a tough
So
one.
so yeah. So how do I phrase that? Actually, I think I have something here.
It's okay. Like, I started writing mine down because I'm very bad about, like, just, I have to practice it enough so it becomes like second nature, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually have the modified blurb that I just cleaned up a little bit. So with the Empire on the brink of war, Connor Balcazar never expected to have a destiny. Though his family has served the Galactic Empire for generations, his older brother Adam has always outshone him in combat abilities and natural charisma. But Connor is determined to prove himself and master his hidden abilities to see the future, to assist the Emperor Esteban any way he can. When the Emperor discovers a sinister plot, Connor's chance arrives. The Emperor's younger brother, Lorenzo, a gifted but bitter scientist, has been scheming to take the throne, and now he is rallying an invincible army. With Adam seeking out the truth of Lorenzo's experiments, Connor visits the mysterious warlike planet of Zeta 5, intending only to train and finally prove his worth. What waits for him on the large mining planet is not just new allies and abilities. There is a prophecy for Connor to fulfill at last, if he can survive long enough.
Ooh, that is great blurb. I like that. You can write mine now.
Thank you.
No, I'm like I said, those hook lines, those blurbs. There's something, like, so many authors, and I'm in that group that's just like, it's hard. It's hard to take your book and then succinctly
Yep.
give a pitch. So
Well, and so that's the other thing that I'm struggling with is because book two, I I'm trying to figure out, without doing a bunch of spoilers for book one, how do I write the blurb for book two? So that's kind of what I'm stuck with right now. So I'm hoping when I go through the editing process, some of the editors in there can help me try and maneuver through that.
yeah, because I mean, there may be a time where you have to announce a spoiler, but hopefully someone's picking a book two, realizes it is book
Yep.
two, and
Yep.
before, but there's always going to be someone that grabs that later book and just immediately and just totally misses that it is a sequel and not the first. So you
Right.
do have to kind of navigate that.
Yeah, and actually, so book one doesn't end on a cliffhanger. It does end with a hint that there could be more.
Mhm.
Book two ends on a small cliffhanger.
Mhm.
Book three ends on a major cliffhanger, going into book four, and then book five is it's not a major cliffhanger, but there's kind of an announcement that happens at the end of the book. And book 5 starts off with some of the characters that were introduced into book 4, and then goes on to bring in the other characters near the end. Well, actually near the middle. It's how I have it plotted out. But the way that I have it mapped out is I'm going to have to write book 6 to finish it out.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's great.
But I've already started putting the storyline together for book 6 to trying to map that out, and I'm kind of hoping that I can finish that with it'll be enough to where I can continue on, because I've got a couple other books that I'd like to start working on. I've got one that I'm probably 12 chapters into that is complete fantasy, and I was advised, because the question I asked is because I was working on that book while I was working on this first one. And the group that helped me publish my first book, when I talked to the main publisher there, she said, well, I would continue on, because by that time she knew that I was working on these other books. She said, no, your readers are going to be upset if you throw out this book when you're hinting that you've got these other books in the series going out. So she said, finish the series and then push that book out. So...
No, I mean that's not a bad thing. Excuse me, I have to tickle my throat. But because there is something to say that you're definitely going to have readers, and if they love your book, they want the next one right away. And so the sooner you get to them, the happier they'll be. I get that. I don't listen to that, and that's why I'm always publishing different books, different series. Again, don't necessarily listen to probably what is best, but I do that anyways because that makes me happy. But I do also understand, like my first book, my debut book, was supposed to be a standalone, but when I was wrapping it up, I realized it was going to be a series. So that one ends in a way that could be read as a standalone. But all the other ones in the series flow, pretty quick into each other, in the sense they are definitely cliffhangers and they are meant to be continued. So I get how your first book kind of ended off in a way where it could feel almost, people could be happy with it, but a fan wants more. So they'll like the fact that there's at least 6 of them.
Right.
So are you, how did you figure out your cover design? Did you work with someone, or are you going to work with them? Again, like, how did you do that part?
Yeah, so actually I found a company called Paper Raven Books. They help indie authors. They help with the editing. They help with finding a book cover, and they help with the formatting. And so what they do is they use a company called 99 Designs, and we did what they call a cover contest. So we give them the crux to what the book is. They asked me to put down some things that I felt should be pertinent to the book, and they came up with a bunch of designs, and I think it was about 20 different designs. And the cover that you see now, it was a little different than the way it looks now, but it was one of the last ones to come in. And when I saw it, they said, no, that's the one. That's the one I want. And so the one thing that I'll highlight is, if you look, the swords are red. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that you have to find out when you read the book.
Ooh, oh, that's cool. I feel like what you need to do is, whenever you go to one of these book fairs or wherever you're going next, is go buy yourself a plastic sword and get some nice metallic red spray paint and make it red, and have a little prop for your book booth, because that would be neat.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. And that's the other thing too, is in my books, they use swords, not pistols. And in book 2 discusses, there is some discussion about the fact that they do have guns. And when Adam, they talk about Adam dropping his pistol or putting his pistol back in the first chapter of the book. And it really doesn't mention guns that much after that. And in chapter 2, explain why they use swords versus pistols or rifles or anything like that.
Ah, neat. But yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say those any kind of little props that catch the eye, especially if you're
Yep.
at an event that's just books and books and books. That helps when I'm actually having a full booth. I have a stand with a model Viking helmet, and that pulls so
Oh,
many
nice.
people because one of my series is Viking Fantasy, and there's so many
Yep.
people that want to do it. They want to pick it up and weigh it and try to put it on, take pictures with it, and
Yep.
that's fine. But it is that hook, and it brings them over, and you're like, well, if you like
Yep.
that, it's because this series, and then it gets you talking. So having like a prop is not a bad thing.
No, that's not. That's yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, I'll
But
have
when
to
you
do
think
that.
outside the box, it's fun.
Yeah.
And it'll go with your sword pens, which I think that's really cool. I need to buy a sword pen and add that to my pen collection. I love that.
Yeah, there you go. And you can find them on Amazon. They're cheap. You can get 20 of them for like 10, $15.
Oh, you told me something. I love this. Actually, no. Let me actually write this down. I'm going to write that down because you never know. I might
Right.
use that for something in the future. Okay. My pen is dying. Okay. But let me ask you, as I exchange pens, I'm talking about pen collection. Let me ask you a couple of questions that I always like to ask because if this platform's
Sure.
nice, most of the time it is, sometimes it's not. I'll be able to repurpose this on my YouTube channel and put all your information down below. But
Okay.
for everybody listening right now is where can people get your book right now? Zon, do you sell wide? You were talking a little bit that you're
Yeah.
hoping to sell direct soon, but where can people get your book right now?
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon. It is on KU as well. I did load it on Ingram Sparks, so it makes it available on Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, any of those. It's not on, what is it, Apple, iTunes? It's
Okay,
not on iTunes because I can't have it on KU and have it on iTunes for whatever reason.
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so it's pretty much available out there. And the other thing, like I said, the other thing that I'm doing is trying to figure out how to set up on Linktree. So if they want to email me, I'm happy to provide the signed copy. I have Venmo and PayPal and all of that, and I would
I
send
think
them a wrap book,
stuff,
a wrap
having a
boxed book.
Square account, yeah, all that is really good
Yeah,
to be able to do the face to face. Now, what formats is it available? Paperback, hardcover, audio, ebook?
yeah. Yeah, it's ebook, paperback, and hardback. I haven't done audio yet. It's been a little price prohibitive
Not,
because of the size of the book. The last quote I was given was 10 grand.
yeah.
So,
Now, I'll mention this because I always mention there are options for people, for instance, and pros and cons of this option. But if you go through ACX, which is Audible's platform, one of the options is
hmm
if you do pretty much an exclusive deal with Audible, you can open it up for 50-50 splits. So you don't pay a narrator up front, but for the next I think the contract's 7 years, you and the narrator split your profit share 50-50. So instead of making 40%, you make 20, they make 20, but you don't have to pay anybody up front. And then after
Oh,
7 years,
really?
it's yours. So that is an option out there. I took that option for one of my series, but it's mainly because they are expensive, and I have 3 series that I'm trying to convert to audio at the same time. So with that said, I was like, no, I think that's a smart move. So there's
Okay.
pros and cons, but it has to then stay exclusive through the Audible platform, which is one of the biggest ones out there. So and
Yep.
you get a bigger share being exclusive through them. So pros and cons, but that does exist.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. I've got it noted down here.
Yeah, because especially for people who have the big books, there is stuff like that. And then if you have the time, energy, and wherewithal, there's things like trying to run a Kickstarter or some other kind of funding thing to try to make funds, build funds, gather funds to produce audiobooks, which I've also
Create that.
seen
Yeah.
for certain authors. So there are options out there, but in general, audiobooks are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I definitely understand. Like I took forever to start going down that path because the price point was off-putting, definitely, So, and you have a big book,
But
600 plus
yeah.
pages.
Yeah. And it's yeah. So April was a year. It's been out since a year April. So not terribly long, but yeah.
Hey, it's still still a book baby. I mean, it's still, like you said,
Yeah.
it's a 1 year old. It's only had one little book birthday, so I understand. Like it took, oh my goodness, my first audiobook I released in 2016, but its audiobook only came out last year.
Oh
I've
wow.
had other
Okay.
ones,
All right.
shorter works and other works come out, but like it just took me forever to try to get that one to find the right people, and it's there. It's not necessarily going to
Yep.
be overnight, so I get that. So let me also ask you, outside of Book Talk, where else can people find you and follow you and support you? So do you have your website? Do you have a newsletter? Are you on any other socials? Those kind of things.
I'm still trying to put together a newsletter. I'm still trying to work that piece out and figure out how that works. I've got MailerLite, but I'm still trying to understand how that works. But I'm on Instagram, and that's the same as my TikTok ID. It's R D Moreno author. For Facebook, it's R D Moreno, author.
Mm-hmm.
And my website is actually rdmorenoauthor.com.
Ah, nice, perfect. Yes, it is nice when authors are able to keep it pretty much the same, because
Right, consistent.
life
Yep.
is, and people don't think about things too far in advance sometimes, and you start creating things and then look back retrospectively being like, oh, I did that with my Facebook account. I created my first page named after my first series, but it took me a while to publish that first series. But as soon as it was done, I realized I'm going to be working on another series, and why would someone look up the name of one and I had to rebrand and create a whole new one
Yeah.
with my author name to try to collect everybody and just say this is going to be the one-stop shop on Facebook. So, sometimes you just don't yet think that far ahead yet.
Yeah, yeah. And well, and for me, I have an analytical mind. I was an engineer most of my life. So my career was 41 years with AT&T. 20 of those years as an engineer in the field, installation and managing crews and the rest of it. And then the last half of it was an IT director managing other clients' networks, with the last one being HP. So I kind of have a mind that way. I used to manage project managers, and so you have to kind of think 3 or 4 steps ahead, and that's kind of how I've been. So, and I'm a chess player versus a checker player that way.
I wish I was a good chess player. But I am a planner, and I'm one of those. I set goals. I have checklists. I'm a planner, so I do have
Yeah,
that capability, and thank goodness. That's the only reason how I can kind of keep all this together. But with
nice.
what you were saying, I could only assume that you are definitely on the hyper plotter side of creating books, or where do you
Well,
fall in that line?
so yeah, so actually I am, but what I discovered in the first book, and to to most people that aren't writers, is the characters kind of have a mind of their own, and when you sit there and start writing, you have a plot in mind. You kind of put the list together how it's going to go, and then as you start writing, the characters kind of go off and do their own thing. So um, but I do, my books do start with a plan. I've plotted out how I'm going to do it, what my characters are going to do, and how they're going to do it. But then probably as I start diving into it, it'll kind of veer off in different directions as I'm going through.
Yep.
And then I have to kind of steer them back. No, 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 I want to do this in here. I want to do that in here. So we got to get back to, we're going this way, not that way. And so that's kind of how some of it goes.
Who knew authors were the proverbial like shepherds, and like, come on, flock, you gotta go this way. You gotta send
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sheepdogs out. Come on back. You're
yeah,
going too far
exactly.
wrong. Get your shepherd's crook. But no, it is an amazing thing that for 99 something percent of us, that happens. Those stories really do come alive, and sometimes it's fun to go on those side tangents, and then sometimes you really do just have to like wrangle with your character and plot line and drag it right back.
Yep, exactly.
So it's just a fun part of the writing journey, I think. So well, let me actually ask you,
It
what is
is.
your favorite part of being an now published author?
Um, so actually, lately, I think it's been the book fairs. I mean, meeting people, talking with people, discussing a little bit about my book with them, and seeing what's going on, and and then talking to other authors that are out there and trying to understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I've met some great people doing that.
it is something. There's some special magic of being at a live event, and I
Yep.
know for a lot of authors who kickstarted during COVID, they didn't experience that early on. I know for me, I was focused more on my other job that I have is a pet portraiture artist. So I was focused more on my painting up until COVID, and then when everything shut down, I
Sure.
switched over and focused predominantly on my writing. But took me years before I finally just started trying to get back in front of people, just because I was focusing on all the behind the scenes stuff. We got to do the marketing, we got to do the writing, we got to do the editing,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so I don't know if he's still on here, but Jason Duro out here is actually the one who kind of pushed me back out there, being like, "You need to go to like this face-to-face event." And so ever since
Nice.
then, I was like, "Oh, okay." And started doing a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's a lot of fun because you never know who you're going to meet or connect with, and
No.
it's just an amazing community, the writing community.
Yeah. No. No. There's a lot of great people out there, and since and I was real hesitant to jump into TikTok because I hear all the stories and everything that's going on with it. But I had a few other authors that I had been kind of interacting with, and they jumped in there. So what the heck? I
Yeah.
jumped in there, and I've been on it for about a year, and I'm up to almost 4,900 followers. So I was really surprised at how quick it's taken off here.
Yeah, no, it's this platform, and I know at least here in the States, you never know what's going to happen for sure.
Right.
But
Yep.
as long as it's going to be here, I'm going to be here because I do love
Exactly.
this particular group in this community, and I say it practically every live. I absolutely love this, and have made so many real friendships from being on
Yep.
here, real connections, and it's been a great thing. But let me ask you a couple more questions since we're almost at the end of the
Sure.
hour. One is,
Okay.
what is one thing you wish you knew when you were starting your writing journey that would have helped you, but you just didn't know? If that makes sense. What do you wish you knew?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was um, using pro writing and Grammarly as an overlay.
Mhm.
Because for my first book, I was horrible at grammar when I was in high school and the rest of it. And when I wrote my first book, I knew that it was going to need I knew I had a great storyline, but it was going to need a lot of help with the way that it was structured and the way the grammar was um, built into it. And but when I went through all the editing process, I learned a ton of stuff. And so my next three books are nowhere near where the first book was. But the other thing that, like I said, is I discovered pro writing and Grammarly, and even though they have a tendency to fight with each other about different nuances within the structure, it's been a big help.
Yeah, no, I actually recently got Per Writing Aid. I don't use Grammarly at this point in time, but I recently got that one just because I wanted to try to have just an extra layer of rounds of editing before I sent it to an editor, whatever project I was
Yep.
working on, try to help also kind of streamline that process if that was if it was possible. But it is something that
Right.
I I think a lot of people are. I'm not an expert when it comes to grammar, and definitely not. I am a writer, not a speller. I have an editor. I have two editors for different projects, and I thank you. Thank you
Yep.
for all you do. So I totally get that, but it is amazing how many tools are out there now for the writing community, and they're always trying to get a little better. And there are more and more out there created by different tech people with the point of trying to help us be better, especially in the indie community, because now that indie authors are being taken more and more seriously. Thank you.
Yep.
It's great that these things are popping up everywhere.
No, they are, and they're very helpful. And the, fortunately, the one thing that I learned early on is I took a couple of writing classes in high school, and the main thing that they all stated was, don't worry about the grammar. Get it on the page, and you can worry about the grammar afterwards. So that's what I did when I wrote my first book. Is it's okay. I'll get it on the page. I got some advice from a few people. I let them take a look at it early on. They says, well, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that, and that helped. And I would clean things up as they went. But yeah.
Yeah, there are so many tools out there for people like us, and kind of like you. Some of them I wish I either knew about earlier or wish they existed earlier, since even in the past X many years since I've been published and writing, so many new things have just been created and released, and so you're learning all the time. That's why I'm always challenging myself to constantly learn what is out there and what's happening, and because you're never going to be an expert.
No, you're not. No, and I'm surprised at how much I've learned from when I started writing to where I am now. So it's just, crazy.
Well, also, one other thing I love to ask, and this goes for anybody who's listening as well, but is there any topics you wanted to cover that we haven't covered, or questions you wanted to ask that you didn't get a chance to ask? Because this is that wonderful time to just cover all the bases that you wanted to cover.
Let's see. So one of the things that I didn't highlight is in the storyline within Zeta 3, or I mean Zeta 5, there's no way to communicate outside the planet. Because of the asteroid field, even when you have the opening from the moons aligning, there is still no communication outside the planet. So anything that's going on inside the planet, you're not going to know about unless somebody flies out before the day and a half to tell you what's going on there. If something happens within the planet, there's no way to communicate, so you're kind of on your own. So that's kind of desolate that way. I came up with, there are some issues that happen within the planet, and I came up with a unique solution on how to communicate some of that stuff out. But so that's one of the things there.
I feel like that's almost not necessarily in fantasy, but definitely a sci-fi trope of like that inability to have communication and what happens because of that. And I actually do love that. I love anything that builds stress and tension and makes people kind of sweat behind the scenes. That's beautiful. So
right. And maybe one more thing to highlight is one of the reviews I received was I had somebody that I reached out to be an ARC reader for me, and he made the comment that he was just finishing reading Project Hail Mary, and he was concerned that after reading that what he was going to be able to do with my book, because it's number one bestseller out there for quite a while, and it's like, how is my book going to line up to that? And he actually comments in his review that he actually liked my book better.
That's a high praises. I like that. High praises.
Yeah. And so and that movie's supposed to be coming out sometime next year. So I'm hoping to kind of highlight that as one of my reviews is, well, if you like Project Hail Mary, then maybe you should come take a look at my book.
Hey, I was going to say, when you have those little great lines for reviews, great for marketing, and be it on the socials or if you're going to put your toe in the actual paid advertising space, use those because, hey, those can help sell your
they're gold.
And again, reviews are so important. Be honest. It could be a good review, bad review, just a wild review. Be honest. They're all important. And as authors, we really encourage people to leave a review if you have time. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's I think that in some ways that's more important than the actual sales. The sales will get there eventually, but with the reviews, that actually helps, especially on the Amazon side of things.
Hmm.
I'm still under 50 reviews, so trying to push my book out there is a little bit of a struggle, but I'll get there. I'm at 40 now, so I'm slowly creeping up.
Good. I mean, sometimes it just takes a long time. My first book, I
Right,
had no idea I was supposed to advertise. I waited way too long before I even tried to figure that out. And even then, it took me
right.
forever. But that was the one that years later became an Amazon bestseller and, was getting the awards and everything. So it can happen. It just sometimes takes
Yep,
time. Would we want that instant win, that instant favorite, that bestseller in like 2 minutes flat? Yes.
absolutely.
That's not usually how it works.
No, and I keep getting reminded that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So you just got to keep that in mind.
Yes. I feel like that should be somehow turned into a bookish shirt. I don't know how, but there's so
Yeah,
many people who say this, and I'm like, try to redesign that. As I love my bookish shirts, come wearing one now, but like,
yeah,
there has to be one out there. There has to be one that uses that
yeah,
concept. It is a marathon.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Sorry, hit that 1 hour mark, I can tell. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me tonight. And it's been lovely talking with you and learning more about your debut book, Zeta 5, and what's coming up in the next few years. So that is super exciting. And congratulations for your debut, by the way.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
You're welcome. And like, if you ever want to participate in another, let me know in the future. I do plan them in advance, or at least try my
Yep.
best to. But I always love reconnecting with people, especially after like subsequent releases, because it's just fun to
Yep.
see how we all change and what else we've learned on different points of our writing journey. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy to do it. I would love to come back. Thank you.
and thank you for everybody who's been coming out and hanging out with us for on and off throughout the hour. And until next time, everyone, hope you have a wonderful evening and happy reading. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.